In the 1960s, if you switched your television on, you'd get Morecambe and Wise, Cilla Black, Bob Monkhouse, David Frost. But nowadays, they're all dead. Why is that? So join me, Philomena Cunk, as I take you right up the history of the United Britain of Great Kingdom. This is Cunk on Britain. Willis's execution kicked off a golden age of public entertainment. As well as watching people die painfully, popular pastimes included bear baiting, shin kicking and cockfighting, which isn't what it sounds like, even though I checked twice. But British culture wasn't just being cruel to animals, it was also bum jokes. And the William Shakespeare of bum jokes was Geoffrey Chaucer. His greatest work was the Canterbury Tales, which everyone has pretended to have read at least some of. His stories feature lots of bawdy shenanigans, a literary phrase which means knockers popping out, or things unexpectedly going up your arse, accompanied by a sort of swanny whistle noise. Chaucer's meant to be quite rude, isn't he? Could you describe a rude bit for me?
So there's a very famous scene where there's a woman, a very pretty woman called Alison, who everyone fancies, and she's in her bedroom with one lover, and then another would-be lover arrives at the window to serenade her and begs her for a kiss, and she sticks her arse out of the window, her naked arse, and he kisses that very enthusiastically, and then suddenly realises what he's done and is quite upset and runs away.
Right, that's not very rude, is it? Like, my mate Paul told me this joke about this bloke in prison who wore a bib round his backside, and that story went places I wasn't prepared for. Like, not even funny, just disturbing. And when I looked up, Paul was crying. Darwin was born the son of a doctor, but using his own theories, soon evolved into a scientist. He was fascinated by nature and decided to find out more about it by going to sea on a beagle. Darwin sailed off on his science mission on a beagle, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He went off for 5 years on the Beagle, a small ship which circumnavigated the world.
Not a dog?
No.
So it wasn't a ship that evolved into a dog?
Certainly not, no.
On his journey, he visited the Noel Gallagher's Islands and came up with a theory that animals that were dead were less likely to reproduce than ones that were alive. If you were a prostitute in London in 1888, there were 2 words guaranteed to put the fear of God into you: Jack and the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was one of the most antisocial murderers Britain has ever seen. Much of the fear of the Ripper was stirred up by the press and by the way he kept killing people. The murders brought shame on 19th century London, which is why, unlike other prominent Victorians of the age, Jack the Ripper has never appeared on a banknote. Despite this, he's just as popular today as he wasn't back then. You can still go on Ripper tours around Whitechapel, a fun way of commemorating a serial killer, although committing murders on the tour itself is likely discouraged. Because the culprit himself was never caught, there's a lot we still don't know about Jack the Ripper. We don't know who he was or why he did it. We don't even know if Jack the Ripper was his real name or just a nickname like 50 Cent. We don't know when he died or if he died. It's chilling to think that Jack the Ripper could still be alive today, living somewhere out there under his real name. Maybe he's one of your friends or neighbours, or maybe he's you. You'd have no way of knowing, and that's terrifying. Despite the name, music hall wasn't just music in a hall. As well as singers, there were comedians, dancers and variety turns, like on Britain's Got Talent, but with a few differences. Back then, audiences enjoyed the acts for themselves, rather than asking David Walliams or Amanda Holden to do it for them. And because the only way to change channel in Victorian times was to walk up the road to a different music hall, the acts could be a lot shitter. So could you play some music hall for me now?
Right, well, there were lots of popular songs, and they liked certain sort of rhythms and vamps. So this was a very popular one, which would go like this. My old man said, follow the van, and don't dilly-dally on the way. That sort of rhythm was very popular.
So why was that considered entertaining? Talk me through the events that led up to the moment where Charles Darwin invented the monkey.
Darwin didn't invent the monkey. No one invented a monkey.
OK, well, talk me through the events that led up to the moment where Charles Darwin didn't invent the monkey.
Charles Darwin saw monkeys as potential progenitors of humans, i.e. we could have evolved from them.
When they put monkeys in zoos, how long does it take for them to turn human?
Well, it's not really to do with the zoo.
All right, so say we kept one in the wild. How long would it take for that monkey to grow like a nose or ears?
Well, they have noses and ears that are perfectly functional.
Like a man's nose.
Those apes and monkeys don't need a human nose. It wouldn't do them any good.
What's the fastest evolution could happen? Like, how fast could you turn a pig into a cow?
A pig into a cow? You're never going to be able to turn a pig into a cow. Why would you want to turn a pig into a cow? Pigs are quite good at being pigs, and cows are relatively good at being cows. Why do you want to turn a pig into a cow?
Just see what it's like.
For centuries, the coronation of a monarch was a sacred event that took place behind closed doors, just like a visit to the toilet, but more dignified than that makes it sound.
But now, thanks to progress, everyone was allowed to peek behind those closed doors. In 1953, millions of Britons watched the Queen being coronationed on their new televisions. It must have been like watching The Crown on Netflix, but live and actually happening. Like Britain's Got Talent, but more serious. Like Game of Thrones, but set in the real world. And starring Queen Elizabeth, like The Crown again.
It was now the British got really into boats, by getting into boats.
Sailors of the time were like spacemen, but on water, exploring the unknown armed only with an engineless wooden car called a boat, and a sort of basic paper sat-nav called a map, which had hardly anything on it, because hardly anything had been found yet. On maps of the sea, do they show the hills? You know, the little moving hills with the white bit on top?
The waves?
Is that what they call the moving hills with the white bits on top?
I think that's what you mean.
Did an explorer ever try to sail into the sky? You know, find a bit of sea that's sort of going up and...
No.
But perhaps the greatest British icon to emerge during the Dark Ages was mega patriot and dragon slayer, St. George.
We don't know where or when George slayed the dragon, but we know it definitely happened because a bystander took this painting of the event. And it probably happened somewhere in Wales. It's one of the few concrete facts to come out of the Dark Ages. Do we know for certain the dragon was threatening St. George? Or do we just jump to conclusions because of the way the dragon looked?
The story of St. George killing the dragon isn't actually true because there are no dragons.
After he killed the dragon, how was he rewarded? I mean, what's better than a saint?
Well, he didn't kill the dragon because dragons don't exist. It's made up.
But is it true to say he was the greatest Englishman who ever lived?
The thing about St. George is that he wasn't actually English. His father came from the middle of what's now Turkey, and his mother came from Palestine, and he never actually came to England.
Oh, you're joking. Mrs. Thatcher had saved the nation from chaos with her tough economic policies, and a grateful nation erupted into lively street parties. The sense of jubilation continued during the royal wedding of the century. It was a dream come true, as the then future and still future King of England, the Prince of Charles, married one of the three people in his marriage, the future Queen of Hearts, Lady Diana Frank Spencer, in a wedding just like something from a fairy tale, except without a wolf or dwarfs or a beanstalk, or a happy ending. The Sex Pistols were fired, weren't they, as TV presenters? What was all that about?
Well, I think the thing about the Sex Pistols were that they had a lot of impact because they got a lot of, shock value and sensation in the papers and on telly. And they helped really launch the movement of punk because everybody knew about what they were up to.
But I don't understand why they got fired on the telly.
Well, they swore.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay. That was quite shocking back then, wasn't it?
Back then it was.
Not now, though,
No.
really.
No,
Now
you
you'd have
wouldn't.
to do something much bigger, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd have to, like, do a poo on the one show or something.
Yes.
And then,
Even then, you know, you might not get fired.
what if you sort of then hike your trousers up without even wiping? Diana's death couldn't have come at a worse time for a nation that had just got really into being judgmental about her sex life. The sense of loss was shocking.
It's hard to convey the atmosphere to younger viewers, although it's fair to say the general mood was... and also...
But because emojis hadn't yet been invented, people had to cry with their faces. Millions looked to the Queen to pull a ceremonial sad face in solidarity. But with a monarch constitutionally forbidden to express emotion, their pleas fell on deaf tear ducts.
Tony Blair stepped in to say what needed to be said. He called Diana the People's Princess.
She was the people's princess.
Even though she wasn't from Peebles, she was from Norfolk. But sometimes the facts aren't as important as how something sounds.
What's the most political thing that's ever happened in Britain?
I'm not sure. I think. Gosh, that's a tricky question in the sense that there are definitely degrees of. Gosh, what's the most political? There are lots of things that are straightforwardly political, and then there are other things that are not. They're sort of halfway, I guess. But I genuinely can't identify the most political.
Second most? This tyrannical sawdust Rex is the only real dinosaur left in the world, which is probably why it's so angry, spending literally every waking moment of its life roaring helplessly at passing tourists. Which was your favourite of the romantics?
Probably Byron, I would think. Byron was the bad boy of the romantic poets. It's thought that he probably slept with his sister and with most other women in England.
He was your favourite?
Yeah.
The one who slept with his sister?
Well, it's not on that basis that I like him. I was just giving you a bit of background on him.
Would that have shocked people, or was everyone sleeping with a sister back then?
I think it was... he spent much of his life in exile and...
Where's exile?
Well, in his case, it was in Italy, mainly. And he wrote Don Juan, which is one of the greatest pieces of particularly rhyming poetry in English literature.
It must be a good book if you can overlook the fact he slept with his sister. Henry VIII kept having a go on new wives because he wanted a boy to pop out of one of them. And eventually one did, called Edward. When Henry died, Edward became king, aged just 9 years old. Edward died aged 15, the youngest anyone had ever died of old age. He was followed as king by Lady Jane Grey. She ruled for 9 glorious days, almost a week. These were among the fastest royals we've ever had. After Jane came this woman, Queen Mary. And there really was something about Mary, but not something funny like Cameron Diaz with all dried spunk in her hair. Mary's something was religious intolerance. She had so many Protestants burnt at the stake, she became known as Bloody Mary, because like the drink, she was horrible. The World War I trenches weren't the right place for conventional warfare, were they? But why did neither side think about mud wrestling? Because they're the perfect conditions, aren't they?
Well, trench warfare wasn't new. I think that whilst you will get the occasional game of Christmas football, I don't think that anyone actually ever thought that letting the guns fall silent and having mud wrestling competitions was ever going to sort anything out.
I think they missed a trick, don't you? We still celebrate potatoes to this day by buying and eating them. It's amazing to think that Queen Elizabeth was the first British monarch to be impressed by a baked potato, and the last. We know a lot about the plague and the fire of London from the diaries of this man, Samuel Pepys. Samuel Pepys is probably the most famous diarist in the world, apart from Anne Frank, but no one knows what happened to her. We do know what happened to Pepys because he put it in his diary. Pepys was brave, wasn't he, writing his diary at the time of the Great Fire of London. You know, all that paper. He risked his life for us, really, didn't he?
I don't think he risked his life for us. It was for himself.
If Pepys was alive today, do you think he'd be doing Snapchat? And it's best to say yes, because we're trying to attract younger viewers.
Yes, I'm sure he would be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. But perhaps the best-known Victorian to put quill to paper is one of the greatest writers Britain has ever shut out, Sir Charles Dickens. Dickens lived here, in a house, but he left when the council turned it into a museum, gift shop and education centre in his memory. He became a writer and began to create some of the most time-consuming stories in history. The names of Dickens' most famous works are still familiar today. Nicholas Nickelback, Great Defecations, David's Copperfield, The Picnic Papers, and his masterpiece, Oliver's Twist. Despite the spoiler in its title, Oliver's Twist doesn't have a twist at the end, which, come to think of it, is a brilliant twist in itself. That's how clever Dickens was. OK, let's pretend it's the 1980s and I'm Margaret Thatcher. This is a political interview. What would you ask me?
I think I would start by asking if this was the early part of her period in office, why she was setting interest rates so high, why she was allowing the exchange rate to go so high in a way that was really damaging British industry and causing a huge rise in unemployment. And didn't she think that she was causing huge unnecessary suffering?
You're not expecting me to answer that, seriously. Britain was becoming multicultural, although not everyone was happy. Not even racists, who at long last had someone new to hate, apart from Jews, Italians, Spaniards, women, the Irish, the French and the poor. Because far-right Facebook groups hadn't been invented yet, the only way racists could express their fury was to take part in race riots, which are sort of artisan pop-up festivals of hatred. Today, racist bigotry has no place in contemporary Britain, except Kent. To be a 1980s yuppie, did you have to qualify as a wanker first and then just work your way up?
I think some people identified as yuppies, but it was also, I think, used as an insult in the 1980s.
I've seen footage of yuppies holding filofaxes and mobile phones. Are they still in that footage? Or where are they now?
Where are they now? Well, they're sort of 30 years older now, so...
So they're not in that footage anymore?
Well, that footage is historical, so...
So if you look back at that footage, it'll just be empty?
No, the
footage...
Because
that person has now left?
No, the footage is a recording of what happened in the past. So the footage stays the same, but those people, we don't know what's happened to them.
In 1348, Britain was invaded again, but this time by a plague. Not a metaphorical plague like a metaphorical plague, but an actual plague, made of plague. So the BBC is supposed to inform, educate or entertain.
And entertain.
I'm going to list some BBC things and I want you to say whether they inform, educate or entertain. OK. News at 10.
Inform.
Open University.
Educate.
Doctor Who.
Entertain.
Strictly Come Dancing.
Entertain.
Holmes Under the Hammer.
Entertain.
Inspector Phillips.
What is Inspector Phillips?
Oh, I made that one up. That was just a trick question.
OK, well, it didn't work.
Sounds real, though, doesn't it? Inspector Phillips.
No, I instantly knew that it wasn't a real one.
Eat Well for Less. It's where Greg Wallace and another man see how much a family spend on a week's shopping and then criticise them. Make them eat porridge from Lidl.
Inform.
Well done. Sorry, I wasn't totting up the scores.
Thank you.